Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Cruise Corner podcast. I'm your co-host, Jack Carter, and I am joined by my fellow pod pal, Cruise Trade News editor, Will Payne, and making her Cruise Corner podcast debut, Senior Partnerships Manager, Abbie Downes. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Will. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, guys. Great to be back.
Well, we have a really exciting episode for you today, as we will be joined by not one, but two guests, Mark Walter and Dr. Verena Meraldi from HX Expeditions. They hopped on the pod to talk to us about their mega fam, which will see some 400 travel agents across the UK and Europe join a 2-night training voyage from Hamburg to Heligoland. HX is calling it the largest fam trip in expedition travel history, so stay tuned for more on that. And if you want seamless access to all Cruise Corner podcast episodes, make sure to subscribe now. But before we meet Mark and Verena, it's been an exciting few weeks of cruise trade news, not least because last week we hosted a brand new event, and Abbie, you're going to tell us all about that.
That's right. On the 28th of April, we invited a hand-selected group of senior leaders from across cruise, travel and data industries to the stunning Chewton Glen Hotel and Spa in Hampshire for the retreat, hosted in partnership with Travelzoo.
Sounds lovely. So, of course, we already have the Cruise Summit in September and we do our nationwide training events, the Cruise Challenge. So what was the thinking about this particular event and how does this fit into the mix?
Yeah, we wanted to do something that was a little bit different. We wanted to give people the chance to escape the office and come together in a really beautiful setting to discuss, debate key issues facing the industry right now, but also enable them to really build meaningful relationships and doing that through experiences and networking opportunities. And it's something that's very different to trade shows and Zoom calls and team calls. We had senior stakeholders from the likes of NCL, Cunard, On the Beach, World Travel Holdings, and many others. And it was really great to see everyone feeling like they could talk openly about a range of topics like the war in Iran, the health of the lates market, and other really thought-provoking subjects.
Well, it was a really interesting day. And it was, like you said, great to see everyone get so involved in the discussions. Will, you hosted a panel discussion where you had Mirella, Fred Olsen, and Advantage Travel Partnership joining you on the stage. So what were some of the talking points that caught your attention from that session?
Yeah, no, it was, to echo Abbie, really. The event itself was brilliant. And, the panel, we did want to bring together, some of the senior leaders from across the industry to really tackle the difficult topics that we're facing at the moment. Obviously, the main one being the war in Iran and the knock-on effect that's had to travel and cruise and how cruise lines and agents can pivot and act in time of crises. I think one of the biggest takeaways was Jeff Ridgham from Fred Olsen made the point that it's impossible to future-proof travel. You never know what's going to happen. I think the last 10, 20, 30 years have shown that. These things happen at the drop of a dime. We don't know what's around the corner. But the best thing we can do is build resilience. And I think that's one thing the cruise and travel industry is great at doing is these things change almost immediately, but the speed that agents and cruise lines can get messages out to their guests or try and start to repatriate people from these areas is excellent. And I think there's just more opportunity there to build on that and make sure that we are ready as we can be, because, as we know, things change rapidly. But I think the future to that is just cruise lines and agents working closer together, making sure communication is quick, making sure guests knows what is going on, and just reacting as best as possible, really.
Johnny Pete from Advantage was also on your panel, and he emphasised the importance of this sort of reassuring messaging and being proactive and getting out to your clients or your customers directly just to say that your holidays are in safe hands. There's nothing really new to report right now. And it's about not waiting to get those messages out, but being proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also had Sam Conway from Travelzoo on the panel, and he came at it from a different perspective, from like the data side of things and consumer sentiment, to show how quickly things can change. And he said they did see an immediate change in terms of where consumers were looking once the news broke. But he also made the point that these things happen very quickly and things change almost immediately. You see these headlines about dangers in places, people will straight away start searching for other things. And he said that after a while it does calm a little bit. So that initial blip, it might be, is something to be aware of, but don't think that it's going to change completely forever. These aren't long-term problems, hopefully. Most of the time it's a little blip in terms of the booking changes or where the focus goes, but there are ways to sort of say, okay, let's calm down and see what happens in a couple of weeks, and then we start making some decisions.
Blip was the key word.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it wasn't all work, because Abbie, you organised a few special treats for the delegates in the afternoon. Talk to us about that.
yes, at the end of the day, we wanted it to be a retreat, so we didn't want to have too much hard work. So to reward that hard work in the morning with all the content sessions, we actually spent the afternoon at a local vineyard, Setley Ridge, where the eccentric owner Paul took us for a private tour, and we even got to sample a couple of wines too. When we got back to Chewton Glen, the guests had the opportunity to really enjoy the hotel, whether they chose to go and relax in the spa, play some golf, tennis, or simply just wander to the beach or around the beautiful hotel grounds. At the end of the day, we then all came together for a delicious 3-course dinner. So really some great opportunities to network and build those relationships. And it really did feel like a nice, special day.
Yeah, it really did.
Well, if you want to read our report from the retreat, then head to cruisetradenews.com now. We'll be announcing details of next year's retreat in the coming weeks and months, but we already have some exciting plans to expand the format next year. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, so on to this episode's big interview. Hosting 400 travel agents on a 2-day fan trip is no easy feat for any cruise line, but for an operator that specializes in something as niche as expedition travel, I think getting that level of commitment from the trade is seriously impressive and an indication of just how hot expedition travel is right now.
Absolutely. And in fact, Cruise Show News' recent annual report found that younger travelers are the ones who are driving this growth. And I thought Mark gave a really interesting explanation as to why he thinks the age of traditional expedition cruise customers is actually coming down. And I was also really impressed by how Verena and her team immerse HX guests in the citizen science element of the trip.
Okay, well, should we dive in?
Absolutely.
Cool. So Mark Walters, if those of you don't know, joined HX Expeditions as sales director for UK and Ireland in 2024 before becoming director of sales across Northern Europe at the end of last year. His colleague, Dr. Verena Meraldi, meanwhile, she was born in Mexico City, which is where she began her scientific career. She joined HX Expeditions in 2007 as a lecturer, and today she now leads the line's science and education program. But most impressively, she became the cruise industry's first female chief scientist in May 2018. If you enjoyed this interview, then we have loads more episodes available for your listening pleasure, all tailored to helping you better understand the cruise industry and boost those sales. So to make sure you don't miss an episode, click the subscribe button wherever you do your podcast listening and enjoy. Mark, Verena, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, no problem.
Thank you very much for having us.
There is so much to kind of get into here in this episode because expedition cruising is undeniably having a moment right now. So Mark, starting with you, I mean, what do you put the growth in expedition cruising down to?
I mean, it's multiple factors, I think. But I think if you look at expedition cruise per se, say 10 years ago, it's changed significantly. I mean, back then it was predominantly, I guess, smaller, older ships to predominantly polar destinations. And I think if you fast forward that now, you know, there's such a wider variety of destinations, of ship types, of experiences. I think it's broadened its appeal significantly. And I think, you know, going back 10, 15 years ago, it was kind of seen as quite elite as well. So I think it sort of kept people at arm's length a little bit. Whereas now we've got so many more ships. If you take HX, for example, when I first started selling Antarctica 10 years ago, we just did Antarctica and Svalbard and Greenland. Now we go all the way from Alaska, Northwest Passage, all the way across the high Arctic, and indeed the Galapagos as well. So even from an HX perspective, our destinations are much wider and therefore appeals to a lot more people as well. So I think it's that. It's also the vessel types and the sizes and the ratings and stuff. There's appealing more to more people. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on. I think a lot of the onboard engagements as well, a lot of things that people are talking about when they get on board the ships, the topics are appealing to a lot more people. If you take photography as an example, that's a multi-generational experience.
Totally, yeah.
And therefore it's encouraging people to do. So again, at HX, we do a lot of work with photographers and the photography side of things as well as everything else. So I think the more that everyone is doing, it's just touching more people sort of in the market. And I think if you overlay all that with the fact that post-COVID, post-pandemic, people's views are, well, I want to travel. I want to get to these remote places. So I think there's a timing thing going on here. So there's a lot of reasons for it. But at the moment, we're still classed as a niche within a niche within a niche. So there's still a lot of work for the sector to do. But I mean, you know, the times we talk to guests and you see their eyes and you tell them what we do, they're like, why haven't I heard about this before? And their eyes light up and off they go. So there's lots of reasons for it, but I just think the breadth of opportunity is so much bigger now.
Sure. I mean, it's not just about the further development of the itineraries and the destinations. It does actually feel like mainstream channels are talking about expedition cruising in a way that wasn't possible 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have recently launched a TV series back in February with ITV.
Sure.
With Julia Bradbury on one of your Antarctica itineraries. I mean, talk to me a bit about how that came about and how did that help shift perception, not only for HX, but expedition as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, as a company, kind of the opportunity to get what we talk about in front of a sort of a much wider audience, I don't see a downside to it. I really don't, whether it's from an HX perspective about promoting and talking about what we do. And what we, I guess, struggle with at times is explaining just what a phenomenal experience is on board. So anything that we can do to bring alive that onboard experience is absolutely gold dust to us. So we jumped at that. So there isn't a downside to it. It got in front of a lot of people very quickly. I think also the fact that it was Julia. I mean, she is obviously, I think from a personality perspective, she's aligned with, the outdoors and engaging, very passionate about that. So to be able to put her, and I guess her kind of followers, for want of a better word, or people that understand what she does, in that environment where we can take her to the South Atlantic and talk about all the amazing things, then there's no downside. But I mean, it was phenomenally successful. We're still seeing the spike. The website, traffic, immediately you can see when the shows are being shown. But the beauty, I guess, of today's world and the digital world is there's on demand as well. So this thing has got a long tail to it. So there's lots of reasons and touch points that we can put down to that one moment. And MS Fram, which was the ship she was on, since has been our biggest selling ship.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. And who's been making these bookings? Is it what's the demographic alignment been?
I mean, it's broadly where we would normally see it. I put it down to the South Georgia effect. I mean, South Georgia, Antarctica, people kind of understand and get to understand and know it, but South Georgia is one of those really kind of people have a slight understanding of, whereas, but actual fact, for her to be able to show the incredible wildlife and the history of Shackleton, really, I think, put it on the map. Because there are, you can get to Antarctica a number of ways, but South Georgia and the Falklands, I think it put a different aspect to, certainly the Falklands, it's not just about the recent history, it's about ornithology and the bird, it's bird watchers' paradise. And so I think it's appealed to a lot of people on that side of things. But I mean, the demographics are very similar. I mean, that's a longer trip, so that's a 22, 23-day trip. So that would appeal to a slightly older market that would probably have more time to be able to do it. But Fram is a well-known ship. She's been with us 22, 23 years, and she's got an amazing following. But I think on this one, it was the combination of South Georgia, Julia, and the ability to put it in front of a lot of people. And we've definitely seen a spike. So no, there's no downside to it at all.
So do you think those people that are booking that have contributed to this spike that you've seen, were they customers that would have been booking an expedition cruise anyway? Or do you think they're customers that didn't realise what expedition cruising could offer that then saw an opportunity?
I think a bit of both. I think there was a lot of people that did engage. I mean, we talked about it a lot. We actually encouraged our trade partners to talk about it as well. We encourage trade to talk about whatever's going on, whether it be Blue Planet or Big Cats 24 or whatever it might be. We say to trade, engage your social media and your activities alongside of this, because we know people's awareness is so much higher.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a bit early to tell the data yet, but it looks like there are certainly regulars that would have done it and are doing it again, and also new to HX, new to cruise. There's no doubt that there's going to be an influx of new guests coming on board for sure.
I mean, we've seen in our recent report that we did, we've seen that there's a huge appetite for expedition cruising from the kind of new to expedition market. There's massive appetite for it. So that's clearly something that you're seeing as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the younger demographic is definitely on the rise. I mean, I was in Antarctica this time last year, and I was, from a personal experience, quite staggered how many younger people there were. I say younger, under sort of 45-ish.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see, actually, because of course, there is what you would typically class as the older market, 55 plus, semi-retired, retired, disposable income. They were absolutely there. But the younger market, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, a lot of single travellers, solo female travelling, are doing it, and they're engaged on that for lots of different reasons. And I think the days of people just wanted to be burnt and sitting on a beach have not gone. There's a lot of people that are just so enthused by, I want to learn more. I want to get to grips with a lot more things. And interesting, what I saw on the ship was, this is very broad, so excuse me, but the older sorts of traditional clients were there almost like as a bucket list. They've travelled a lot, they've wanted to, and they're doing the seventh continent. The sort of younger market were very active, and they were there motivated by all the incredible stuff that Verena's teams and the onboard expedition teams do. They're really motivated by these learning opportunities. So there's a nice mixture on the ship. But there is definitely a younger market, solo travellers, solo females, family groups as well, where they can be multi-generational, we saw on the ship. So it's all having its effect. And also we're on sale a lot further out. People, thinking, maybe I can't afford to do it. By the end of this year, it will be on sale till March 2029. So people can book 2.5 years in advance. And I think all that helps kind of people plan, we're going to do this amazing trip. And we know when we get them, we hook them in.
Yeah, well, then you want to get them in early as possible there, then they've got a lot of years left to be travelling.
The NPS scores we're getting this season and the TripAdvisor reviews have been phenomenal. So we know when we get them on board, they'll be blown away.
Verena, your eyes lit up when Mark mentioned sort of the bird watching possibilities and the kind of wildlife. And you spent time in Antarctica extensively during your career as sort of in science and marine biology. What are some of the most fascinating things about Antarctica to you? And whenever you go back, what are the things that you're most excited to see and smell and feel again?
Well, it is not around the corner to start with. But just the trip to get there is a really important part of the experience, is getting prepared while going across the Drake Passage to, the isolation, the harsh weather, the maybe even harsh conditions to do a landing. It's a unique experience that people that have the chance to get to the White Continent can experience. And in terms of wildlife, it's incredible. Other than in the Galapagos, you don't get that close encounter with wildlife that you get in Antarctica. It's amazing to see the penguins that are there oblivious of your presence, just doing their day by day, stealing pebbles from the neighbor and just living the lives without this feel of being in danger or it's really seeing nature at its best. And the whales encounters in Antarctica are also out of this world. And luckily, humpback whales mostly have recovered since the whaling was banished in the 1960s. And it's amazing to also be able to see these animals working together to collectively feed, use the super rich waters of the Southern Ocean too.
I'm glad you mentioned sort of harsh conditions and that feeling of you're really immersed in a very wild, desolate destination. There's a lot of discussion right now among some expedition lines and wider travel media around the perception of Antarctica as it becomes a more mainstream destination. And we see more kind of luxury-minded ships entering the region where they're kind of softening the edges of an Antarctica experience. I mean, what's your view on that? And should that adventure element be center of an Antarctica experience?
I guess so, yes, because the concept of adventure also brings in responsibility with it. So if you want to be adventurous, you obviously need to be responsible. And this is what we really carry close to our hearts, being responsible with the places we visit. And that is also one of the reasons why our science and education came to life, because we saw the opportunity of using our ships not only to transport people to these incredible places, but to offer them as platforms of opportunity for their scientific community to get access to these very difficult to access areas. So we are also at the same time helping researchers, but bringing it also alive for our guests as part of discovering these remote places, understanding what science is important to preserve, to help conserve these places. It's a win-win. Our guests get a deeper understanding of the places we get them to, and the researchers are able to collect data that otherwise would be very difficult to get on a yearly basis and through time as well. So it's perfect.
And I guess then your customers can leave as ambassadors for Antarctica, and they can go and tell people what they've learned. And
they do. And also all these projects that we have been supporting on board our vessels, it's not only studying penguins, whales, and making oceanographic data collection. We have also supported social science projects that have informed the way we continue developing our science and education program. And that is also why or how the courses that we offer to all of our guests joining us to Antarctica came to be. We understood from this research that people wanted to be better prepared when they were to be so involved in scientifically focused educational opportunities on board the ship, but it also highlighted that people not only wanted to be better prepared, but wanted to know how to continue engaging or how to continue this transformational journey after being with us. And that is why we developed the second course, the comprehensive course, together with University of Tasmania, to allow our guests to continue learning about the destination and getting passionate about new things that they can work on or contribute to projects when at home. So yes, supporting this ambassadorship, because if you don't keep track on it or sustain it, it fades away, unfortunately. So for us, it's super important not only to provide the experience, but try to support this journey afterwards.
Well, we're going to get into the detail of HX's science program in a separate episode with you later on, Verena. But Mark, May is coming up soon. Probably already arrived by the time this podcast episode comes out. But May's a big month for you because HX, you are hosting the largest ever expedition travel agent fan in history.
Well, yeah, we like to think so. I mean, I've struggled to find anybody that can claim otherwise. So yeah,
well, claim it yourself then.
We're having it. So yeah, Emma Fridtjof Nansen is going to be sailing out of Hamburg for 3 days, and we have taken it out of the itinerary. We've built in a specific 3-day window so we can give the trade from across Europe the experience of being on board the ship and to really get to understand how the ship operates, because there's lots of questions come from travel agents. How does this work and how does that operate, and when do I get in, how easy to get into Zodiacs, and all those kind of, well, we take as quite basic questions, and once you're on, the penny drops.
Yeah.
So we really want to try and recreate that a mini expedition voyage, so trade can see the ship, they can touch it, they can feel it, they can see what the hardware of the ship is like, which is great, but it's seeing the scientists, the operational side of things, which really makes a difference in operation. So yeah, that's going to be May the 5th to the 7th.
And how many travel agents on board?
450, around at 400 plus. So yeah, come across them all. There's about 120, 30 from the UK. So it's a big commitment, but we know that it's powerful because once people see it, we know that it resonates.
Yeah. Is it a challenge getting agents on board when the expedition ships by their nature tend to be a bit smaller and obviously in destinations that are hard to get to?
Yeah, I would have said 2 or 3 years ago, yeah, it was a challenge just to try to get engagement from trade. I mean, people loved it. It was in a day-to-day kind of, was it worth it? Now, we've got to wait this for that trip.
Wow. Okay.
So we know that people are making a contribution to the foundation as well to attend. So they're contributing to the HX Foundation. So they're paying to come on the trip, which is, again, sentiment to the commitment that they're showing as well to learn about it, and also supporting our HX Foundation as well. So people are really committed, and we have not had a problem getting people.
So if you've got a wait list, will there be more farm trips coming up, do you think?
We're planning one in Antarctica later in the year.
Amazing.
Not as big, sadly.
Yeah.
So we do one in Antarctica, and every year we've just had one in Norway as well. So we do have multiple ship visit opportunities, fam trips and things there. Trey can get on board the ship and really experience it. And what we have seen is a lot of agents doing their own trips, their own holidays, through our agent rate scheme. And we've seen the social media and the feedback from those agents on board. They're blown away by it.
Well, I'm excited to say that I will be on board in May, and I'm really excited. But I think what I'm really excited to kind of get a sense of is how travel agents can bring that human element to life, and sort of how they can harness that to then communicate that to their clients. Verena, when you're on board and your team are on board and you're seeing the guests engage with the science element, I mean, what are some of the things that excite them most? Is it seeing the lab? Is it talking to a bird expert, for example, or is it getting boots on the ground? I mean, what are the moments when guests' faces just light up?
It's very often when they come across the unexpected. And the perfect example for that is when they first see the abundance of life on a drop of water. So when they get the first chance to look through the microscopes and see the myriads of shapes and forms of plankton, is like, wow, really? They just want to learn more and more about plankton and who eats the plankton, and it's really eye-opening. Sorry?
Who does eat the plankton?
The plankton, the zooplankton, the animal plankton, and then everything depends.
Obviously, I shouldn't know, sorry.
Sorry about it.
Krill. In Antarctica, the key species is krill, for example, that fits from phytoplankton. But yeah, I could go on the food web there, but...
We had, when I was in Antarctica, we had one moment where, as Verena said, the journey is part of the experience. You kind of have a bonding moment with the rest of the passengers and crew. You're getting to know each other and how does this work, and try on the jackets. And so you sort of go through a number of days. I had to have a briefing as well, all the things you can and can't do. So there's this build up. And there's one moment where somebody just shouted iceberg, and we saw our first iceberg off Antarctica Peninsula, and people are in tears. They're crying their eyes out. It's very, very emotional.
Must be phenomenal.
Yeah, and it was at sunset. So the next morning we woke up, opened the curtains, and wow,
You are there.
it's just mind blowing. It's incredible.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We're not saying goodbye to you both yet, because Mark, you're going to be joining us for a separate How to Sell HX Expeditions episode, which will be out next week. And Verena, as I mentioned, we're going to be sitting down with you again to learn a bit more about your role and how your expertise kind of really helps enrich the guest experience. But before we say goodbye to you, we like to end these chats with a little mystery question segment, if you'll indulge.
Be afraid.
Yeah, so...
Oh boy.
I've got our crystal ball, if you will, here. Inside, there's some mystery questions. Can I ask you each to pick one?
Yeah. Verena, after you.
Verena will go.
Thank
You
you.
first. Do you want to read it out and then provide your answer?
If you could only bring one item on a cruise, what would it be?
What would it be?
My yarn and needles.
That was what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, the binoculars.
It only says one thing. Yarns and needles can be very practical if you need to cover your hands, your ears on a cold environment. So I would prefer that than a pair of binoculars. But yeah,
That's a good one.
Hey, Mark. Can you just give us a little shake first?
Yeah, no problem. Oh, thank you. I've got my glasses on here. What does your dream cruise look like? Interesting. I mean, for many years I worked in cruise, so I worked for some of the big cruise lines. I mean, which are fantastic and they are great. I have to say, Antarctica was off the scale. I thought that was amazing, but the Galapagos, I'd go back in a heartbeat. And it was one place that I didn't think I would think that. And I want to take my wife back because I know that that would really resonate the wildlife. As you say, it's just an abundance. You're literally getting off the plane and it's in your face very quickly. So me, fingers crossed, later this year, we'll be going back to the Galapagos because it's very, very special. And to all the places we do, but as one real surprise, I'd go back there in a heartbeat, absolute heartbeat.
Excellent. Well, two brilliant answers. So, guys, thank you so much again for joining us. To those watching and listening, stay tuned. As have Mark and Verena will be joining us again for some special bonus episodes. But for now, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.